All right, so I want to make a follow-up real quick. It's a little dark. I'm going to be turning on the light here in a minute. On the Go Power Plus, okay? I got some comments in the comment section, and there's a few things I wanted to go over about that I had learned since I last did this video. One of the comments that I wanted to address was a good point, saying that the Harbor Freight solar panel kit that I was using, we'll mess with these items here in a minute, was overpowered for this device, and the watts were too high since it shows as a 15 volt input right there, and that you could damage it if you're doing that. Other people talked about what Lead Farmer had on his channel with the 13 volt. Some people saying that do that, some people saying that wasn't going to work. So I reached out to the company and I wanted to go over what they told me about these questions, because I asked them whether or not it would work with the Harbor Freight panel, what kind of charging you can do with it as far as how many watts and whatnot. So that being said, and I also wanted to mention another option that you have if you wanted to charge. And I got a couple of accessories that I picked up to be able to use with this setup. So we'll go over that in a minute. First, I want to address the question about the Harbor Freight solar panels. According to the tech support, and I got my emails right here. Okay, let's see. I don't know if that'll be, I'll just read it to you. I asked the question, thank you for your help, because I'd already asked them prior about the person's comment in the comment section about the E4 error code. And that was basically saying you probably plugged the 12 volt input into the output and set an error code, just basically turn it off, turn it back on. All right, so there, I replied back to them. Ask the questions if you don't mind. What's the input voltage? What's the max voltage you can take? Can it be over paneled? Is the inverter modified sine wave? Is it charging with PWM controller? Is it faster to charge it from, say, a 100 watt panel or a wall plug? What's the recommended solar panel? So that's the questions I asked of the company. Unfortunately, they did not answer all of those. Okay, so they responded, my pleasure to be of assistance. Recommended voltage is 15 volts, 3.2 amps, which for which is faster. I'd say the wall charge is more consistent due to environmental factors at play than with solar charging. Recommend the solar panel below, or regarding recommending a solar charger, we do not have a recommended model, but as long as it has 15 volts, 3.2 amps, it should output should work fine. So they didn't address the sine wave, although I'm sure it's a little cheap device. I'm sure it's a modified sine wave. They didn't say that, but you can bet your money on it. You know, this it didn't really give me an exact tolerance range. And I replied back, I was wondering because I noticed you can plug a Harbor Freight solar panel. It's charging, but I don't want to damage the unit by putting a 100 watt panel kit if it can handle it. So their response was, it should be able to handle it. If not, the device has an auto shut-off feature to protect itself. So that is from the company itself, saying that you can plug a Harbor Freight panel into it, and if it has too high a voltage or too high, well, I guess it limits the watts coming in. So with that limited information they gave me at 3.2 amps in at 15 volts, you're talking somewhere around 40 some odd watts, 40-ish watts of power that you can put in this thing. At that rate, you should be able to get, if you could get a consistent charge at that rate, you should be able to charge this thing theoretically in about 4 hours by doing the math. I have not tried that with my panels yet from dead. With my in charging on there, I obviously charged in the first video, but it wasn't dead, and so I can't testify that works out. But that's how the math works out. So I'm assuming, depending on its state of charge, about 4 hours. Now about the 13 watt panel that was being used in the other video, considering 3.2 amps, 15 volts, I did the math on that. With a 13 watt panel running your 12 volt solar panels, you're getting around an amp. It's very, and that's in perfect conditions. And like somebody mentioned, their setup wasn't really working. I think it would work to charge this stuff, but it would charge extremely, extremely slow. I would not want to, I mean, if you had nothing else, then maybe the 13 watt would be enough, and you would be okay with that if you didn't mind waiting, you know, charging it every day for several days, or at least only using a little bit of lighting at night and then trying to top it off in the morning when the sun came up. But you're not really going to get a very fast charge with that. You'd be do much better off even if you only had one of the 25 watt, because you know the solar Harbor Freights come in sets of 4. Just using one 25 watt panel or 2 connected. I did all 4 at 100 watts and it started charging. Now these other accessories. Let's move on to that. So this right here is something it's just like the cheapest emergency lighting kit I could find on Amazon. So I'm going to put that through its paces, and then I'm going to review that as well. I'm going to see if this thing works for extra lighting, because in a power outage, I'm going to want to light up more than one area. So if I have this lighting up one area, I'm going to maybe have this lighting up the bathroom or something like that. Or if I can get good lighting out of this, so maybe I can free up this right here to be useful for some AC power. These things were so great and so cheap over here where I'm at. A lot of people said that they aren't that cheap where they're at. Where I'm at, I bought another one for 40 bucks. So I bought one for 45 and one for 40. But let's move on to some of the other things. Some of these accessories. All right, so these accessories here that I got. This is just a standard, in fact, I got this from Five Below. It's just an extra battery pack for, like, you know, cell phone charging. That's not what I would want to use to try and charge the Go Power Plus. Obviously, it's just here for demonstration. And so I just want to show that you can, if you were willing to wait for a 13 watt panel, that you could charge the thing USB with this USB to 12 volt adapter cable. And look at that. I'm actually charging the Go Power Plus on this USB power. Now this thing won't charge it obviously long, because this is a small little battery bank, but if you had a wall plug or you had a jackery or something else that had some USB and you didn't really care about fast charging, you didn't care if it took 3 days to charge it being USB, because you know this thing is not putting out a whole lot of watts. That you could charge it like this. I don't know that would be a practical solution in a real world test, unless it was just to top it off as an option, because this is going to put out a very little bit of watts. USB doesn't handle a whole lot of watts. Maybe if you were using a quick charge, it might be better, but your 13 watt panel is probably going to charge it about as fast as this USB will, which is not to say very fast. But I wanted to show that was an option. Anybody might be interested in that. I bought this cable from Amazon. If anybody wants it, I'll put a link to it. Like I said, you have to be super patient. But what this is a output 12 volt DC. So you plug into a 5 volt standard USB socket, or you can do a quick charge. And it came with this little adapter piece, although I think either one of them will fit it. And that, it comes just like this. This cable was $8. It was $7.99 on Amazon. So this might be useful for some other project if anybody out there likes DIY stuff. But I figured I would try it out, and it works. So it has that same size in on that and a USB. Boom. So there's that option if you wanted to try and charge this thing versus USB. And why I thought that might be why I thought somebody might actually want that is they make those little small fold-out panels for like backpacking, and they don't have anything other than a USB. So they'll have a small solar panel that's maybe 20 watts or 15 or 10 watts, and it'll have a USB out on it to charge your cell phone when you're backpacking. If you were in a situation like that and you wanted to keep this thing topped off, you could plug a cable like this into your small fold-out solar panel and plug it into that, and it'd probably be as good as the 15 watt, as the 13 watt other panel. The other thing I wanted to try real quick is this is just another lighting option. This is something I bought separate on Amazon. Here again, just as an accessory because I wanted a little bit more lighting out of here. This is a USB light. This is $9.99. Let me turn that on. And it's got a pretty long cord. But let's see. How long is that? I don't know, 5 or 6 feet probably. Maybe not quite. I don't know. Let me see if I can swing it out. I'm sitting on the floor right now. So that long of a cord. And that much light. So there's a few, as you can see, it's pretty bright. And there's some specs on this thing, and let me get that and I'll go over those in a second. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to switch that light to this USB right here. Because I want that light running on this. To show that that light can run off my USB. Now let's take a look at some of this. Let's see. Hope this will show up well on video. And I'll just kind of hang out there so anybody wants to can pause the video and read it. Some of the specs. Okay, so 5 volts, 35,000 hours. This bulb's supposed to be good for. If you're interested in the color, it's 3,000 Kelvin. And of course, don't put it near heat and that kind of stuff. So let's flip this over. And of course, you'll see the brand. If anybody wants this exact one, they've got others on the Amazon. I'm not affiliated with any of these people, so I'm just showing you the options that I think people might be interested in and I bought myself. The thing that I found interesting on here, let me see what side of the paper it's on, is how long it says it lasts. If I can find it. Powered by USB. I had it earlier when I was putting all my stuff together down here to... Oh, there it is. So it says you can run this 5 watt bulb rather for 9 hours on 10,000 milliamp power bank. Now let's take a look at what our power bank actually is rated at that I'm using in this example. And I'm actually going to try to run this light on tonight and see how long it runs for. Let's see if I can finagle all this with one hand. Yeah, I'll just read it since it's not really going to focus for me too well. There's a lot of reflection, at least on the camera. Anyways, it's 2,600 milliamp hours is what this thing is rated for. That would mean this should only run this light for a couple of hours. Maybe 2.5, 3 hours. So I'm going to put that to the test because I don't know. I mean, 10,000 milliamps for a 5 volt USB light. We're going to see. It seems like a lot to me, maybe. I don't know. But it is 8 o'clock-ish. Let me find out the exact time. I'm filming this at. All right, so it's 8:14 right now. And I'm going to leave this hooked up and see how long it lasts, and we'll go from there. And I'll check back in the morning, and we'll see how long this thing lasts on this battery bank. So there, that's part 1 of this video. Of course, to you, it'll all be the same video. All right, so good night. All right. So charging this thing USB, to wrap this up, I think it would be just as slow as the 13 watt panels. Don't think 13 watt panels are going to be a very efficient way to do things. But if it's something that you're interested in, by all means. As far as how long that little light lasted, from the experiments, the USB light, it only lasted a little over an hour. So keep that in mind for the accessories. Other than that, more to follow once I get done putting the other one through its paces. And I have some other stuff in the pipe. So, SHTF Farmer out. Like, share, subscribe. You know what to do.